Yeah, so I started a company called VMOps back in August 2008, and we started by making some software for cloud computing. And back then, cloud computing wasn't actually well known, and it wasn't also clear how we're going to call our product. So we came up with the term Cloudstack. And if you look at some of our early documents, we actually spell Cloudstack a little bit differently. It was two words, not one. And at some point, it became one word when the industry started to accept the term. And now Cloudstacks are everywhere. I was actually at a different company, another startup back then, running some mobile computing software. So we created services for mobile service providers, and that service required a lot of hosting. And I remember there was always a big hassle to try to predict load. Sometimes we would have too few machines. And if you provision too many machines, it's very expensive, and you'd have to get all that rack space, and you have to put up all that capital investment. Then users don't come, so all that investment would be going to waste. And that's when we found the Amazon Web Services. It was just such a fantastic idea. I figured it was a matter of time before other people would want to build a similar type of service as well. So that's where really the idea and motivation of Cloudstack came from, is to enable everyone to build cloud services like Amazon Web Services. No, I think it's great to work on an open source project. Very early on in my career, I worked on Java Virtual Machine, and I remember, fondly, that was really one of my best experiences, because even though it was not an open source project in a modern sense, but all the source code was available to the public, and we just got a tremendous amount of community participation, bug reports, documentation. All this ecosystem got built around openness. And when we started cloud.com and we started developing Cloudstack, we were pretty sure we're going to go the same way, and we're going to follow the same path. And I think the results been quite phenomenal. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the biggest difference between an open source project and a closed source project. A closed source project, really the only developer community around the project would be people who work for the company who develops the product. You could still have a big user community, and really the biggest difference between an open source project and a closed source project is the developer community. So because the source code, the documentation, the developer process, the bug database, source code repository, everything is open. There's nothing that prevents anyone from participating in the project. Just I think the transition from whatever the IT data center infrastructure is today to cloud computing is a big transition. What we're trying to do is we're trying to bring the type of data center infrastructure that was developed by really internet companies, and bring that infrastructure to enterprises and service providers, and by participating in the Cloudstack community, they're really going to get they're going to really going to participate in that transition. We're still at a very, very early stages of cloud computing, but given the speed that it's happening, I have no doubt it is going to happen, and it's going to happen very quickly. So I think that explains why so many people are interested in Cloudstack, and so many people are participating in the community. Yeah, it was actually just yesterday. I saw I saw one of the engineers here produced a component called DevCloud. It is basically a nicely packaged, all-in-one Cloudstack installation for developers. And I went over and then asked him, the way how he actually produced it. Did he produce it manually, or he produced it using a script? And he said he actually produced it with the help of a script that was not 100% automated. So there's still, he described there were a few steps that still had to be done manually. One of the steps was you have to kind of go into a system and set the root password manually. And then I came back to my desk, and there was actually an email in my inbox coming through the Apache developer mailing list. It turns out that one of the developers outside of Citrix saw that, and he was very excited. He actually went in and actually enhanced the script. He automated exactly the part that that was not yet automated. So I thought that was quite phenomenal. It's just the collaborative nature and of the community, and the speed at which these deficiencies, these bugs are getting discovered and fixed is a thing that really shows the power of the open source community. All over the world, we're very popular in the U.S., of course, but we're also popular in Europe and Asia. There's quite a bit of a. Today I saw, actually Jessica, you sent an email about Japanese, version of the documentation, right? We also seem to be particularly popular in Japan, which I'm going next week. So really look forward to it. No, I think it was really engineered from scratch to handle, very, very large-scale workload and to manage very large-scale data center deployments. And really, that's one of the biggest difference between just legacy enterprise-grade data center and the cloud data center is the scale. And one thing that came with scale, once you have dozens of data centers and thousands of servers in each data center, is these hardware is going to fail. And Cloudstack is designed to handle, number one, that mass scale. Number two, it's designed to handle the failure that inevitably happens in large deployments like this. So we have customers running tens of thousands of computing nodes today that's managed by Cloudstack, spread across multiple data centers, and they're running a very reliable mission-critical service that really drives their core business on top of it. And Cloudstack is really able to deal with that because it's architected from scratch to deal with that type of scale. It actually, the failures happen quite often in large scale, data center deployments. There's actually I read an article done by a couple of researchers out of Microsoft, and they actually realized that every year, 7% of the computers in their data centers will just fail, and this is quite a remarkable number, which is not really a surprise if you think about it. If you run even a desktop machine yourself, right, and you'll probably expect it to fail, in a few years, and so that's why when you have hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of machines in a data center, I mean these things really add up, and it turned out a big reason for servers to fail was the hard disk, and people actually because of that, it's fairly common in servers for people to have redundant hard disks. So instead of one, you have multiple hard disks and controlled by something called a RAID controller. So when one of the disks fail, another disk can pick up. But as it turned out, the second most component that fails, it was actually the RAID controller. So the controller itself could also fail. And of course, then you have your other situations like power supply and things like that. And this is just the server. And then when you go beyond that, and you talk about failure either with networking or with storage, or your internet uplink could fail. Right? And that's why today when we help our customers architect our cloud service, it usually involves multiple data centers, redundant network uplink, because really at the end of the day, geographic redundancy is the only weapon that you have to really guard against catastrophic failures. No, I think it has to be the UI. Cloudstack is one of the, it's really a hardcore enterprise grade or service provider grade data center management software. But I think from the very beginning, we don't just focus on the back-end features. We spend a lot of time anticipating, understanding, and talking to our customers, who are really system administrators and data center operations team, right? To really understand what they need, to operate and run the cloud. And really, one of the biggest difference between cloud and legacy, enterprise grade infrastructure is you don't have to study a lot to use it. In the old days, you'd have to get certified, with Cisco or with VMware, and really go through a fairly lengthy education process, and just to be able to, get a job and manage data center. And I think today with cloud computing, the data center itself is actually getting consumerized, because of software packages like Cloudstack. We can automatically manage a fairly large scale set of infrastructure that's spread across multiple data centers, and through a very intuitive and easy to use user interface. Enterprise admins, data center operators, and end users themselves can directly go in and operate on very sophisticated data center infrastructure. No, I think user can expect continued innovation. We've come a long way in the last 4 years, really helping our customers and the open source community to help them build data center infrastructure like Amazon Cloud. But this transition to cloud computing is still at its infancy. So the rate of progress is as fast as ever, and where if you just look at Amazon, every couple of weeks I would get an email from Amazon Web Services about new features getting announced on Amazon Web Services, right? And that shows the amount of customer demand and innovation that's really going on in this space. And we're signing up new customers every week, and with a lot of these new customers, they're putting infrastructure as a service cloud in use cases that wasn't really even anticipated when we initially built the product. So and if you go on to the Apache Cloudstack mailing lists, both the developer and the user mailing lists, the amount of excitement and possibilities that the community is bringing up for Cloudstack is really exciting. So I really look forward to continuing to evolve the Cloudstack technology as part of the community to help address these new needs.
And
The other day, a community member actually talked to me, and I thought he had a very interesting use case. He's involved with a company that makes a lot of network devices. One of the leading manufacturer of really networking hardware, right? So what they're really looking at is a system that could potentially help them manage all of these networking equipment as it's already deployed in the field. So if you think about it, that there's no reason why Cloudstack cannot treat these network elements, as computing nodes, right? Or even potentially, these days, even if you branch out to the consumer space, all your phones, all your devices that you have at home, many of these things are interconnected, and I think eventually they would all need a system like Cloudstack. Doesn't have to be Cloudstack, but certainly a system like Cloudstack to manage them. And I think, like I said, it's very early. It's not a use case that Cloudstack was initially designed to handle, but the demand is out there, and there are actually people who are looking at potentially, using or adapting part of the Cloudstack technology to help them address those use cases. No, I think it continues to gain traction in the enterprise, especially if you look at the type of cloud services as exemplified by Amazon Web Services or Cloudstack. They really started in these web companies, companies like Amazon, companies like Google, companies like Zynga, right? And all the startups, not just big companies, but nowadays if you start a company, you typically would start by hosting your services on one of the cloud services, as opposed to try to set up infrastructure for yourself. So that's where the whole thing got started, is from these internet companies, and very quickly the first wave of demand that Cloudstack addressed was the service providers. Service providers have been running a very big business, helping their customers, small, medium business and enterprises to operate data centers, and they're very quickly transforming those data centers into cloud services. And what we believe is once big enterprises see that the benefits, and when they get used to using those hosted cloud computing services, they would also look at their internal their internal data center architecture and realize that they can manage their internal data center architecture more efficiently if they build it like a cloud. So that's really the next big wave that we're anticipating. We're still just seeing some early demand of it, and we believe the opportunity in this private cloud space, and eventually once people have some workload running on-premise and they have some other workload running in the cloud, they have a hybrid cloud scenario that they need to manage, although it's still early, but it's definitely quite real. Quite a few of our customers that already have it in production, and that's where we really see the world happening, is the data centers of the world, whether they're run by internet companies or service providers or enterprise, would eventually resemble the type of cloud that Cloudstack users are building today. Innovative, production proven. That's two words.
That's fine.
Yeah. People like to use the term mature. I like another term I like is quality and scale. Beautiful, the UI. Ease of use.